Welcome back to the Season 3 World Championship live from Los Angeles. I am Trevor Quickshot Henry alongside David Freak Turley and this incredible crowd behind us. We're just about ready for the first match in Group B, North America's Vulcan versus the European champions Fnatic. And coming into Worlds, Fnatic has been on an absolute tear. Over the last 10 LCS matches, they've gone 9-1 and finished first in the regional playoffs.
Yeah, quick shot. Fnatic basically won Season 3 in Europe. Not only did they win the regional playoffs at Gamescom, they also took the Spring Split title as well. So these guys are freaking good. But even with those wins, they still have to play in the group stage because unfortunately the European All-Star team didn't do so well. They didn't even make it to the semifinals over in the All-Star game in Shanghai.
I prefer didn't do so well. Even though they have to fight through the group stage, when you mix Fnatic's current confidence with their veteran lineup, it makes them a very tough draw for other teams within Group B.
Exactly. Back in Season 1, Soaz and Yellowstar were on second place against All Authority, whereas Cyanide and Peke won the frickin' thing on Fnatic. These guys are very experienced. They're a very, very good team. And even Yellowstar has been actually to all three of the World Championships. He was on AAA back in the first one, he was on SK last year, and here he is on Fnatic. So veterans to world competition.
Yeah, just a little bit of experience there. We'll see if it helps him out, because even if the members of Fnatic want to get back on top of the world, they've got to need another MVP performance from their mid laner Peke.
Peke played absolutely great at Gamescom. These are the top teams in Europe he's fighting against, and puts down a score like that. He won the MVP award thanks to aggressive dives, solid split pushing, deadly dueling. This is the Fnatic play style is, Peke, go win the game for us, be awesome. And he's done that so far. These are things he's got to keep doing the entire time. He's done this the entire split as well. You can see his gold per minute at 383, 312 kills throughout the season. Guy puts up numbers.
That's a lot of kills. But today, Peke will be laning against from North America's record-setting mid laner, ManCloud.
Sure. So Peke,
that deserves a cheer. That deserves a cheer.
Absolutely. So Peke got the most kills for Europe last split, but ManCloud set the record for most kills in a single LCS split on either side of the pond, and either split, 167. And pretty much everyone in North America considers ManCloud to be the best mid laner in North America. So this matchup, a mid lane focused European team against the best mid laner in NA, is an awesome matchup. Now, of course, assisting ManCloud in this game is their shot caller and record-setting support player, Bloodwater. Now, Bloodwater earned a place in the record books as well. And there's the crowd cheer for him as well. 337 assists in the summer split.
American teams kill each other a lot on the Rift. And while those record-setting performances help Vulcan finish the summer split in second place, their run to the North American title was shut down when they really stumbled in the semifinals.
So they had a really rough series against TSM in the semis. Then they had to fight for the third and final spot there against Dignitas. And they did really well. They actually bounced back and took Dignitas down with a 2-game sweep. So they got that last spot in the Worlds. And honestly, Vulcan, that loss to TSM didn't look like Vulcan. They looked a little weird in that match, so I think if they go back to standard Vulcan style, the early game leads they're used to getting, they're going to do pretty well. They've got momentum off that 2-0 win. As long as they're practicing well, they've got momentum going into this fight against Fnatic.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the pressure may have gotten to them. And for Psycho Sid and the rest of the squad, they know that a win against Europe's champions Fnatic would be a big step towards establishing North America as a much improved region here at Worlds.
Fnatic is a really consistent team. They bring out some good things. Like, I feel like I can learn a lot just playing against them.
Yeah, I'm still interested in playing the American teams because now people are actually saying that US is better than EU, and yeah, I want to see for that myself.
I think Vulcan is pretty good. In my opinion, their best player is their mid, Mandatory Cloud.
Some of the EU teams have said that Cloud9 is the only good team in NA, so we're going to try to prove them wrong.
I think Fnatic right now is a really strong team, but their team isn't as strong as it's supposed to be. I think they'll definitely be really tough.
Fnatic is one of the more entertaining teams to watch. I don't actually watch that much EU LCS, but when we watch Fnatic, they have really unorthodox picks, and they have a really good mid laner. XPK, he's fun to watch too.
They actually finished top 2 during the LCS, so I hope we'll do well against them.
There's a lot of respect in that video between both teams, and I kind of get the vibe they don't know how they're going to match up.
It's really interesting to look at because we've seen now, even just looking back at Group A, how good the early games were against SKT1, who people thought was like, oh my god, they're so good, of course they're going to crush. And then you had early game leads come out anyway. And Vulcan, this early game strength team, can pull that same thing out here. And we heard the analyst desk talk about how, well, their late game's not as good, so maybe they can't close it out. And then Fnatic's got this crazy Peke split push.
They've got to make it to late game. They've got to make it to late game. Let's take a look at those starting lineups for this game. In the blue corner, it is going to be Vulcan. Psycho Sid up in the top lane, Xmithy in the jungle, ManCloud as your mid laner with Zuna, and Bloodwater as your AD carry and support.
And on the red side, it's Fnatic with Soaz in the top lane, Cyanide in jungle, Xpeke in mid, Pushu the AD carry, and Yellow Star on support.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to jump into Champion Select here for both of these teams in just a moment. This is a massive matchup. This is something that we've been wanting to see for a while. EU versus NA, a lot of the threads and the talk has been going back and forth. Picks, both of these teams are fairly different in most of the other lanes, but there is some contested picks in that mid lane.
Yeah, so the mid laners both play a lot of heavy assassins there. Ari, Zed, Twisted Fate even in there as well. The only real difference is that Peke plays a bunch of Kassadin, and that's one of the other sort of standout picks that might separate these teams. But you've got some pretty shared stuff there, and there's the Kassadin ban. Vulcan knows it's not something that we play, it's something that you play. But also the AD carry lanes are pretty similar as well. They've both been playing recently a lot of Ashe and Varus, playing sort of utility-based AD carries, but also to add on to one side, the Caitlyn in there for both these guys. It's the Tristana that's actually unique for Zuna. That'd be an interesting pick to see if it goes into the ban phase.
So my question now, how does Psycho Sid adapt to the new patch, 3.10, 3.11? We know he likes to play a lot of the Shen, a lot of the Zac.
Yeah.
He's even played a bunch of Cannon up in the top lane. Are we expecting a Cannon from him or maybe something different?
That's what I was going to start pointing to, is that he can play both the tanky frontliner guys who plays the main tank, let Smithy play more damage, or he can play the guys who fight a lot of Jace, a lot of Kennen. We've seen from him in the past, Elise as well. So honestly, he's one of the more versatile top laners, and I think he can roll with the punches with any given patch.
Well, we'll have to see how the rest of these bans go out. Kassadin, Ashe, Shen, and Zed have been removed. A lot of these really being quite targeted comfort bans for most of these players, but Ari is still up and available. ManCloud and Peke both value their champion as it gets taken away, and I'm very interested to see the Twisted Fate, because I know, again, both of these mid laners like to run it, and Xpeke has actually played it recently as well, even after the changes.
Yeah, it's interesting because I want to know how their champion pools have spread out. Most of these guys have started to play Fizz as well, and there's actually a lot of good, viable assassin options there. I remember actually Nuke Duck learned Talon because he's like, well, they keep banning out my other assassins. I'm going to go learn another one so I can't be banned out. There is, in fact, the TF ban you pointed out. So now it's a lot of mid lane focused bans. The Shen removed from Sid, but Zuna still has all the AD carries wants to play. I would not be surprised to see him grab Tristana. There's honestly a world of options there for the first pick in the mid as well, because you'll see how these teams shape up their strategies, and it's going to be Orianna.
Safe pick. I mean,
Yes.
we see Orianna's, it doesn't necessarily reveal anything. It's not necessarily super weak to many things in lane, and the question is now, what is Vulcan really thinking? They've locked in their mid lane, and now they've left everything else up and open. Do you think this is let's see what Fnatic does and respond?
So it does a couple of things. So first of all, Orianna does pretty well against assassins because she can defend herself very well. Also brings a lot of teamfight utility, and she can turn people who aren't great initiators like Lee Sin, which we just saw OMG use, into real initiators. They can dive in and say, well, it's ball delivery. You don't have to play something crazy. Evelyn the same way. They can start fights even though they're not hardcore stunners.
One thing I do want to highlight about the Fnatic roster that we've seen Cyanide doing many times during the playoffs was he was running that jungle Aatrox.
Yes.
He ran to it. EU really embraced Aatrox as a champion, and it tended towards the jungle towards the latter parts of the season. And we have seen Soaz playing many Elises in the past as well. So that Elise pick, it really could go either way for that Fnatic squad.
And it's such a strong choice for Fnatic to do, is to allow themselves the option. I remember actually, if you look back at SKT1's most recent game, they picked Kennen and then waited because you can run it in the mid lane, you can run it top lane, which they ended up doing, and giving yourself that option is so important. But the Sona Steel I actually really like from Fnatic. Not only is it one of Yellowstar's better supports, but it's the go-to support for Bloodwater. For those who don't watch the NA scene much, that is basically his go-to support. It's a bit of a steal, though he's happy to play Zyra as well. But that does give some more control to the Fnatic lineup if they run like an assassin mid without CC.
You have to feel that both of these teams are maybe anxious in this game. They're really taking their time. This is definitely one of the slower pick ban phases that we've seen all day long. As the timer runs down, we are seeing that Vi locked in conjunction with a Corki. So Corki is now 6 for 6, unless my memory is faulting me on the day. Trinity Force really making a viable, and Vi, I know you quite like the pick as well.
Yeah, these are champions that have shown up recently. Vi, without any changes to Vi at all, people were like, you know, champion we forgot about after she got nerfed was Vi. That champion's awesome, and she's really powerful, and she's finally back into the scene. Hardcore initiator, another good ball delivery champion. Now, she can initiate by herself with the Vault Breaker and the Assault and Battery ultimate as well, but just having her on the same team as Orianna means you can lock down a backline target for real and get rid of it, and that's just an important thing to have. When they both hit level 6, you can dunk the mid lane right away as well, and give ManCloud an advantage over Peke.
Well, we'll have to see how Fnatic decide to respond. If that is a solo lane Elise, it could also be jungle. Jarvan for the likes of Cyanide. Cyanide and Smithy, both of their sort of preferred junglers are still all up and available. The Lisa and the Jarvan, things like that. At the moment, it does look like it's going to be locking in that Lissandra. This is a champion that we haven't seen in a little while.
Yeah, so it was actually temporarily banned from play for a bug that we ended up fixing and put back into World, so now she's available again. But this was the sort of the final pick here for Fnatic's mid lane for Peke. It was one of the remaining routinely picked mid laners for him. So Lissandra coming in here. Honestly, I like the matchup against Orianna because you can self-ult and dodge the Vi Initiate. You can self-ult and dodge the Shockwave as well. You can turn the lane into a farm lane. And then Lissandra's roaming is better than Orianna. So Peke will actually be able to make more moves than ManCloud can make throughout this game.
We've also seen Soaz playing Lissandra during the course of the regular summer split as well. So, you know, this could be a situation where Fnatic are leaving their final pick to be the top lane counter, or the mid lane counter rather, if Cyanide's going to run that jungle Elise, which he's also done before. So I'm just seeing so much versatility from Fnatic. If you're a Vulcan player, is this the right choice? The Nasus and the Zyra, going to close that one out. That's going to be jungle Nasus if I'm not... No, top lane Nasus.
Yeah, so I actually like the fact they went Nasus here, because what Fnatic has actually done successfully is gotten to counterpick every single one of their lanes. They pick mid lane second, they're going to pick top lane second here unless they decide that it's going to be Elise in the top lane here. And as well, the Corki showed before the Caitlyn, so every single carry matchup, Fnatic got to pick and say, here's what you're bringing, here's what we're bringing to build an advantage here. So I think Fnatic have sort of played the pick ban phase very, very well. But now by Vulcan picking up Nasus for the top lane, he's actually going to be very, very good against guys like Jax and Aurelia, who are auto-attack based and can carry a game. And he's picked a matchup that is safe in 1v2, is safe in a 1v1, and actually has certain counter matchups without any real bad matchups for himself.
So we'll have to see how well it can actually be played once the game does go. 8 seconds left on the clock. Fnatic currently sitting on that Yorick. And again, we really need the dust to settle here for Fnatic once the swaps come in to really see how these lanes are going to set up against one another, because there is so much versatility. I would expect this to be a lane Yorick.
Yeah, he played that a lot throughout the European regional. There is that 5% chance it's jungle Yorick top Elise, because yes, Soaz plays Elise, and yes, people like Levelin play jungle Yorick, but this is the 99% likely, or 95% if you listen to what I said 5 seconds ago, 95% likely setup right here is that top Yorick. The teleport here on Soaz allows him to split push against the Nasus, but the thing I like about this Nasus pick for Vulcan is you can charge Siphoning Strike on Yorick ghouls. It's not that hard to do, and as it stacks up, you can almost one-shot them. So Sid's going to be a very farm Nasus, and against an auto-attacker like Caitlyn, very susceptible to Wither.
It's going to be very difficult for Soaz to maintain control over Psycho Sid's lane. Both of those top laners running teleports. We'll have to see how they can impact the rest of the map. And while the teams spawn into their bases, let's take a look at who you guys actually think is going to win this matchup. According to LOLesports.com, 74% believe that Fnatic are going to lock down the win.
So this is interesting now because we had different votes come in from the analysts. For once, we finally decided to different people. Yeah. So Monty and Crepo picked Fnatic here. Kobe and Double have picked Vulcan. So if you guys are right, then you're all going to tie the NA analysts up there with Kobe and Doublelift getting it wrong.
We're finally going to start breaking up that top of the standings. They're 4-1 right now. We'll have to see who is going to pull ahead. Make sure you guys keep voting. Head over to LOLesports.com and actually vote for who you think is going to win. We are playing this awesome minigame all throughout the worlds. As we're loading up into this game, Vulcan versus Fnatic, this is the first game of Group B. Are we expecting any early shenanigans from these teams?
Early shenanigans, it's hard because there's not the best ganks early on from Vi. You can force the issue. But as we saw from TSM against Gaming Gear, they actually waited until the Aubin hit level 6 and then just pile drive the bottom lane. Though as we saw from Lemon Dogs, you can force things early on. If anyone really makes the early move, I think it's Cyanide, because Elise is a great early ganker, and you have pretty good follow-up from Peke on Lissandra as well.
Well, we'll have to see how well Cyanide can make that Elise work. Remember that Vulcan are on the blue side of the map, Fnatic on the red. And as it starts out, both teams posturing themselves towards very defensive, almost doorman duty, making sure that neither team is able to invade their jungle and get any sort of early vision down.
It's interesting because both teams have very good brush checking. You've got the Spiderlings from Cyanide. You see it jump out right there. Allows them to run into this brush. So Fnatic safely got a ward in, but this isn't like the Lemon Dogs or SKT early ward games where they got heavy wards on the enemy red buff and then dove in. Vulcan, a bit of a later invade here, but that will also get spotted by Soaz.
Well, Soaz playing a little bit of guard duty. He's going to back away as Psycho Sid, Zuna, and Bloodwater move themselves in. Peke is off to the side, though, so if there were a couple more members of Fnatic, I may have tried to pinch them in instead. Vulcan with a little bit of a later ward. This time, not exactly on the red buff, but it'll give them information of as and when Cyanide's moving through his jungle.
What's important now is actually where the lane matchups go, because we've seen early games sour based on where the two men sort of like the 2v1s go and where the junglers end up starting. So I want to look, and it's Psycho Sid being given a 1v2 in the bottom lane. Because of the ward put down right above the lizard camp here, they knew Fnatic's dual lane was down at the bottom, and they said, we're going to crush Soaz 2v1. Sid, just survive with Spirit Fire bottom lane. We'll deal with you later.
Well, we'll see how effectively these 2v1 lanes match up. As you can see, in the mid lane, both of our champions, Mancloud and Xpeke, battling it out. Yellowstar and Pushu, they've moved themselves in. They're challenging Psycho Sid and Smithy here. This is a 2v1. Red buff was secured by Smithy, and they're going to get away. Cyanide forced to flash over the wall as an invade from Vulcan is now applying a lot of focus damage down. Cyanide, 200 HP. That's a flash forward from Zuna. 100 HP, 50. First blood secured. That's in Zuna's back pocket. He now has a red buff to back it up. Peke rooted in place, down to 110 HP. Zuna's trying to chase. It manages to pick up the kill. 2 early kills for Vulcan.
And that's what happens in 2-on-1 lanes. You pressure the buff if it's getting started with only the top laner there. You can build a numbers advantage. Vulcan, they defended it because it was a simple 2-on-2. No one else tried to stop. But Vulcan grabbed Mancloud to the top lane and said, you're going to make this a 3v2 and get us the lead.
So a great start here for Vulcan. Now I do want to highlight there that a teleport was used by Peke in the mid lane. Soaz actually swapped to Ignite at the last second, so he does not have that map presence available. Just so we can keep tabs on that one. And Cyanide now, without his red buff, is now going to try and solo off this blue himself. Smithy secures his own blue buff and will continue the rounds around the jungle.
So what's interesting now is Soa's going to have an even worse time of this lane. Smithy got a very easy clear and hit level 3. Cyanide is behind and on the wrong side of the map. If Vulcan just wants this turret, Soaz must give it up.
So Soaz is going to at least see that Smithy is coming. Vault Breaker gets charged. Soaz gets smashed down. You see those denting blows hurting really much right now. And Soaz loses 50% of his HP. Zuna and Bloodwater left uncontested. They're damaging a lot on this top tower.
And what's funny about this is Vulcan won't lose their bottom turret for this because Cyanide hasn't left his own jungle and because Nasus is actually very, very good at 1v2. He has a point in Spirit Fire early on. He can keep his turret in much better shape. He can leave the lane and teleport back, and he'll be in good shape.
Well, we'll see how well Psycho Sid can farm up. At this point in time, there's nobody from Fnatic responding to this top lane. At 4 minutes, 10 seconds on the clock, this tower is down to a couple hundred hit points, and it looks like Vulcan are just going to continue denying the CS and the golden experience from Fnatic.
Yeah, there's a very important choice here for Vulcan. They could continue to siege the top lane and keep pressing that advantage, sacrificing the bottom lane turret, because the thing to remember is Sid's turret now is down to about 1/3. A dedicated 2v2 won't necessarily keep that turret alive for long because Caitlyn Sona can keep pushing. Even if Vulcan lane swaps back to the bottom, Vulcan might just want to... that's a little tricky by Zuna. But they actually might just want to stay up here and trade turrets despite everything.
Well, we'll see what they decide to do. That tower was very, very low. Does get taken down. So before 5 minutes on the clock, Vulcan with a very, very strong early advantage. Doublelift mentioned it. He's talked about it all day long, about how Vulcan are so good at getting an early lead. But we've seen Fnatic over in EU play from behind many, many times. Smitty's coming down to this bottom lane. May step over a Caitlyn trap. Does manage to avoid that snap trap. And Pushu and Yellow Star running a little bit of interference now, trying to be a bit wary of Smitty's positioning.
Yeah, so now it's important to note what the map state is right now. The bottom lane turret only has 650 health left on it. It's very fragile and being shot right there by Fnatic. And there you can see, right, even though the dual lane is swapping back, this turret is dangerously low, potentially picked up right here by Pushu.
Yeah, 1 or 2 more auto attacks should be enough. It's down to 1 auto attack. Pushu was pushed away from that lane thanks to the roots coming down by Bloodwater. And now we are going to see this 2v2 matchup for a little while. I imagine if Fnatic do make a concerted effort, it shouldn't be too difficult for them to claw that tower back.
And right now, though, Vulcan has a huge item lead. They have a couple of kills and assists on the Corki. They have turret gold as well. He's recalled and bought a Phage. Caitlyn's stuck here on a Doran's Blade. She will grow a minion deficit here if she stays in this lane. Pushu will fall behind.
Well, take a look at the positioning here from Xmithy over on the side. He's level 4. We'll see if he's going to decide to go in.
Pushy right now, just last hitting some of the plants. Honestly, that minion wave died too fast. If they can re-clear this wave in time, they could have gone for it, but Cyanide showed back up. There's no way they can dive that anymore.
So Fnatic at least holding on for the time being. Cyanide was hanging around in that tri-bush for a couple seconds, waiting to see if anyone from Vulcan was actually going to set up any sort of dive. At this point in time, CS numbers are very close across the board. About a wave advantage for Pushu, as he hasn't needed to lane swap, which is what Zuna has been forced to do in the last couple minutes.
Yeah, and also, I want to kind of point out what's happening with Psycho Sid right now, because Soaz has been freezing the top lane and it's caught up. Level 4 versus about 1 minion from level 5. Sid had to go run and ward the top jungle to look out for Cyanide and Peke roams. Peke is level 6 right now with teleport and can just destroy people. But Sid right here has teleport. He can join his team for a dragon, which is what Vulcan's looking for right now.
Well, we do see the dragon has been started down in the bottom half of the map. Fnatic does have a ward there, so they are aware of it. Xmithy level 5, Bloodwater level 5. They're taking this dragon down very slowly. Fnatic start to group up. We do see the rappel coming down. Lands back on the ground, forced to flash away. Cyanide's in trouble. The cocoon does not connect. Here comes Peke. Frozen Tomb locks ManCloud up. He is the first victim to fall. Fnatic are on the board, but they did not get dragon.
They did not, and they let the Nasus stay in the top lane in a very pushed lane and just shoved Soaz to his turret. Of course, a cash positive for Vulcan right here, but as we always know, they have to keep the pressure on. They can't let that Fnatic late game get scary.
Well, we do see Soaz and Psycho Sid bashing against one another. While we've got a brief moment, let's talk about this lane Nasus. Oh, we do see Pushu taking some damage in the bottom lane. Freak, I remember we were discussing the Siphoning Strike farm on Nasai in games that we're seeing. What sort of rate should we be expecting on that Q-Stacks?
Okay, so everyone knows the whole 10 minion kills per minute mark. If you break that, you're amazing and are farming minions really, really well. I want to propose that lane Nasus can get 15 Siphoning Strike stacks per minute, and jungle Nasus can get 10. And I'm happy to tweak those numbers as time goes on and we learn more about how these players play. But I want to keep track of 15 per minute and see where he goes in this game.
And just remember that of normal minions,
10 minutes.
That's going up by +3 per Siphoning Strike. And on larger minions and monsters, it'll be +6. Psycho Sid right now is at +66. So we always like to keep tabs on those Siphoning Strike stacks, as it were. So as in Psycho Sid, they're not paying each other any attention at all. That is the definition of a tanky bruiser farm lane.
Yeah, exactly. You have the early Doran shield here for Soaz, wants to take less damage from auto attacks. There's the push finally from Fnatic. They have so many minions here, but Vulcan, doesn't matter, the minions are theirs. There's the push lane from Caitlyn and Sona. When the turret's that low, you're going to get it eventually. It's a matter of time. And Vulcan, of course, going to lose that, but they're still going to try to build a farm lead. The top lane, we talked about it being a farm lane as well. That's happening so far.
Well, Xmithy charges up this Vault Breaker. He was toying with the idea of jumping on Peke, but did decide against it at the end of the day. Backs away cleanly. Once again, Psycho Sid, he's basically pitching a tent and frying some s'mores right now because he stayed there so long. 44 CS, Negatron Cloak to his name, finally backed away. And Fnatic, you can feel the tension in their gameplay right now. They're not willing to contest or fight because of that early advantage that Vulcan were able to accrue.
And Vulcan just now have the ability to dive themselves. Smithy is level 6 on Vi, and ManCloud's Shockwave is up. They've rotated Bloodwater to the mid lane here. The opportunity to just force kills here from Vulcan is around, but it's interesting, they're actually waiting. They're saying, you know what? Let's get Zuna huge. Let's wait on Trinity Force before we make any major moves. He's freezing the bottom lane. The rest of his team is putting pressure elsewhere and buying some time for him. So Vulcan are actually content to play a bit patient here.
Well, see how well it works out for them in the CS numbers once again, sitting fairly close across the board. Soaz with a small advantage over his opposite number in the jungle. It's Smithy with a tiny gold lead as well. Only 100 gold separates the top lanes. It's actually very, very close across the board. 500 gold for your AD carries. It's not a massive difference at the 10-minute mark. So this game could not be closer. Zuna and Bloodwater now with a couple seconds of uncontested damage on this tower. Yellow Star does not even have his crescendo yet, so the potential of jumping on Vulcan is not there.
And I've got to say, I'm impressed with Fnatic's play so far. As you mentioned all the gold numbers, you've got a Vulcan squad who are up a dragon and a kill, including First Blood, and are only up 1,200 gold for that. That's less gold than dragon and extra kill are worth. So Fnatic, despite a very rough 2v1 where he got zoned out, despite this Nasus free farming, Fnatic are farming lanes better than Vulcan are. So this slow-paced game where farm just keeps showing up is in Fnatic's favor.
Well, we'll see how well they can continue to grow that, to close the gap and maybe catch up to Vulcan as far as gold is concerned. Soaz now really pushing this lane quite heavily. He doesn't have any wards in his inventory, so does need to be a little bit cautious of staying this deep in Vulcan territory. But I do want to highlight the pink wards, you know, littered across the red buff jungle area of Fnatic. That's quite a lot of pinks invested this early on.
It's interesting too because that's the side of the map where where Psycho Sid is, and Sid is not exactly the best gank follow-up. He's trying to basically max Siphoning Strike. Now it does keep him protected from Cyanide and Peke, but this is not a place where you're going to be able to force kills. When you compare to what Smithy can do on the push you in Yellow Star, that's a much bigger sort of impact where you can Assault and Battery and a Grasping Roots and just kill the AD carries and get Zuna huge. Well,
we'll see how Vulcan decide to play that one out. 1 minute 20 on the clock before Dragon respawns. Cyanide has been able to sneak himself into this bush, and Psycho Sid has no idea he's there. There's no vision there.
No, there's not at all. It's a very successful sneak. I want to know if they do enough damage, because it's not like you do a ton of damage there with York, but there's the engagement on Psycho Sid.
The cocoon does land. We'll see if Psycho Sid decides to throw down that ultimate. He just walks away. Did burn the ghost at the last second, but saves his ultimate, as we do have a very, very brief pause as Smithy charged up that Vault Breaker.
I'm looking at Vulcan on your screen right here. Going to figure out what the issue is with these guys exactly. There's actually Cyanide who called the pause, though. So it might be something actually on Fnatic's side here. But we look at this game, and I want to kind of pull back to things we just talked about. So the mid lane matchup, I think, was so important. ManCloud versus Peke, the big playmakers. To sort of solidify that ManCloud point, not only did he have the most kills of any player in any split, he's also the only mid laner in NA to have more gold per game than their AD carry. So you think about all the teams in NA, you know, with Reginald, with Lincoln, all that, doesn't matter. It's only ManCloud who's actually out-farmed his AD carry counterpart in top laners as well. So he's a huge focus. And he started the game at 1-0-1. A free kill, a free assist. And yet, even despite that, Peke is out-farming him. Peke picked up the kill onto him in that dragon fight. And you're kind of seeing this matchup, despite an early advantage, Peke seems to be the stronger player.
Well, we'll have to see how it pans out, because one of the things you can't discount about that matchup is it's Orianna versus Lissandra. Both of these champions have the ability to kill one another, but they also have the ability to save themselves from one another.
Yes.
It's an interesting matchup for players that we know are so diverse in their champion picks, to have these sort of arguably utility mages as their lock-ins for this game, because you know, they fill so many different roles.
They really do, and it's fun to watch players like that who can play all the big assassins who roam around and pick up kills all the time, or play the initiators, or play the far back farmers like Karthus. And the depth of the champion pool is always interesting to watch, and how it shapes how the teams play.
So, just so you know, it is a keyboard and mouse issue with Peke. We are busy working to resolve that one. I got a question about these top lane champions. It is going to be the Nasus taking on the Yorick. So we know that, you know, the later the game gets, the more impact that Siphoning Strike of Nasus will have. But it's pretty difficult to engage in a Lissandra who's going to be slowing the whole way down, etc. So who's going to have a bigger impact once we get to these mid to late game team fights? The Nasus or the Yorick?
Well, so because Fnatic's lineup is actually very sort of persistent right? You're not super bursty with York. You're not super bursty with Lysandra. You're going to start fights, but then you got to kind of continue in battle, and you're using Caitlyn, who is going to auto-attack many times throughout the fight. And in fact, looking at Pushu's abilities, going towards Infinity Edge, so Fnatic are happy to play a late-game team fight-oriented sort of style. And when you've got a Nasus walking into a big team fight-oriented style, where you're running a York whose job is to clone an AD carry, you're Nasus. You have Wither. You're going to make Caitlyn's life miserable, and you're going to turn on the ultimate, spam a bunch of siphoning strikes, and start chunking people. In an actual late-game team fight, Nasus will have more impact on the battle, and will sort of just contribute more than Yorick does. But that's just kind of how he will continue to scale. But as we've seen, Fnatic are happy to spend some time sending Cyanide up there, trying to sneak in and get rid of the Nasus, and say, we're going to keep you small, low points of siphoning strike, low durability, and we can kill you in those battles.
Well, we'll see if Fnatic can continue to control Psycho Sid. He is 20 CS down. We see in the top lane, they've decided to dive. Fury of the Sands is up. It's not going to be enough. And Cyanide and Soaz, straight out the break, they continue that dive and they secure themselves their second kill.
It might just be a turret trade. The dive goes in from Vi, finds the push on the Yellow Star.
That is a long-range Assault and Battery, slams down Yellow Star. There is enough follow-up to secure the kill, and now that's going to allow them free reign on the tower. Fnatic should be able to take the top lane tower as Vulcan secure their second of the game.
Now, you don't want to play around with batteries, kids. Smithy's going to take you down when you do that. And you look at that as well, ManCloud just getting enough pressure on the mid lane. He'll take another turret down for this, so the top lane dive was great. You actually saw both junglers put pressure on opposite sides of the map and get the trades.
So we do see towers being traded across the map for these teams, and in the space of a couple of seconds, a few thousand gold has been picked up and earned, and it just leaves us in this pretty similar predicament, 1,500 gold separating them.
But what Vulcan did better is they focused their gank on the bottom lane. Dragon spawning in 3 seconds, and they've got everyone on their team on the bottom side of the map, except for a dead Nasus who can teleport to the bottom side of the map. So Dragon Control was what Vulcan got at the beginning of the game. They're about ready to get it again with an AD carry pushed back to base. Peke's recharged. Okay, he recalled. He's going to be nice, but you already had a Athene's finish from the Orianna for ManCloud. He's got full resources. He's ready to play that. That's going to be fine.
So I believe we do have actually a replay of that team fight that just took place a couple of minutes ago. So Freak, talk us through the specifics of this top lane dive.
So it's basically Elise just diving right in there, and Psycho Sid ultimately has nowhere to go. There's actually a lot of persistent damage output here with all the voidlings they can, or the little spiderlings and all the ghouls they can summon. It's basically a standard dive against someone who has burned their escape tool. Nasus has no innate escapes. Cyanide's first gank forced the ghost to get burned a little bit maybe prematurely. I don't think he necessarily needed it, but with that down, they know there is nothing Nasus can do.
Not only was it a 2v1 dive, they had all the ghouls, they had all the little spiderlings. That's just a numbers mismatch. It wasn't fair at all.
It was like a 15 versus 1. They had a minion wave too.
Yeah, see, Fnatic, they need the numbers to win fights.
They don't fight fair.
But it worked out, so that's what matters. In terms of kills, it's 3-2, so Fnatic are a little bit behind. We are still working on that keyboard and mouse issue, guys, just so you are aware. The Xmithy dive, to me, rings true or tells me quite a lot about Vulcan's playstyle in that they're not afraid to dive deep, because that was a hell of a long way to go. And it was insta-flash followed up by both Zuna and Bloodwater.
Yeah, and that's what you can do with Vi. That is the Vulcan play style, I think, that Doublelift was referring to when he's like, yeah, they're a really good team. They get ahead early. They can make a lot of plays. And he says that Smithy's such a good jungler. These guys are willing to make plays. They've picked initiators, right? That's why you pick Vi, is to go start fights. It's what Lemondogs wanted to do in the first game when they picked the Vi and Malphite, is they want to go in and force the issue and disrupt what the other team tries to do. Fnatic wants to play this late game where Pekka gets huge and split pushes, and Soaz is too big to deal with as well, and they get their just late game awesome phase where they outplay their opponents. And Vulcan's job is to disrupt that, is to get in there and start fights.
So there is one thing that I am a little concerned about this Vi pick as far as the Vulcan composition is concerned. The champions that he's going to want to be slamming into the ground, if he decides to go for pushes Caitlyn, that's probably just going to get hit by an Omen of Death and come back to life. Elise should be able to repel away from it.
Sure.
Lysandra should be able to ult herself, or eventually Hourglass, as I know it's what Xpeke likes to build. So surely that limits Xmithy's options for team fights and targets?
Well, here's what's interesting about it. So you're right that he's probably only going to go for Caitlyn, and sure, she can get revived, whatever. But think about, this is Fnatic we're talking about. This is Fnatic who splits up all the time. And Pushu's not going to have a Lysandra and a Yorick sitting on top of her at all times. She's going to be unprotected. And you saw exactly what happens right there when it's just the Sona there. Crescendo's not enough to keep her alive. Or Fnatic no longer plays their own style, and Nasus goes and runs around and split pushes with teleport and says, someone's got to stop me. It's not going to be Caitlyn because I'll beat you 1v1. Maybe it's Peke. Sure, then you no longer have any engage. But if it's ever so as, there's the whole reason you tried to defend Caitlyn. And so basically Sid off on an island over and over, scaling up to infinity, getting super tanky, not being able to be removed, and then Smithy on the other side removing people. That's kind of the Vulcan game plan. It actually covers for a lot of the Fnatic gameplay.
And it fits Vulcan pretty well. They've left Sid on islands many times over the course of the split. Guys, while they do work on Xpeke's peripherals, let's send this one over to Riv and the guys at the analyst desk to hear their take on the game.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. And right after it went away from us, I'm pretty sure all of these guys were like, wait, come back. Pick up the bat phone, get things going. Because those picks and bans started a pretty big ruckus back here. And we're going to start with Monty because your sigh was pretty deep in that situation. And you almost want to change your pick now.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't like it when Fnatic plays Yorick. It's a weird pick in this composition, especially against what they saw. And you remember they had a lot of time to select that top laner, and so is a very versatile top lane player. But in this situation, when the Nasus is picked up, the Caitlyn is going to get withered, and then who do you revive? They have no damage. They have no damage here, and so I'm very concerned about Fnatic from the pick and ban phase.
Monty's such a sore loser, dude.
Yeah.
Anyways, I believe in Vulcan, dude. This is Vulcan's game to lose after there's such a strong start. I feel like if they pull the Vulcan throw buckets, they're going to lose. But if they play solid and they've worked on their throws, they're going to win.
All I can see is my prediction taking place. Yeah, Vulcan will get ahead, but Fnatic's going to take this one in the late game. But not really. I really don't like the Yorick pick. I don't know how it fits. I respect Fnatic as picks go because they usually... They've caught us off guard in pick and ban phase quite a few times, really reading how many options we had. They literally one time banned out 3 of our options, took a 4th, and then just completely destroyed us in pick and ban phase. So generally they know what they're talking about. But now the Yorick, I don't see it.
And it's not just the Yorick, right? Like everyone talks about Fnatic in the late game. They're really good at stalling out, and they have Xpeke split pushing, and he's on Lissandra this time. He's trying to initiate for his team for team fights. He's not on like an Ahri with a teleport.
He can hide though. Lissandra hiding somewhere in a brush. Okay. If you get that coming at you full, you can't stop it. It's just gonna ice tomb you, and then you're standing there like getting frozen and killed.
By what damage?
What damage?
I was just going to say that Fnatic's team comp sucks late game. I'm like a late game guy, dude. I love late game, and like Fnatic's late game is just non-existent. Caitlyn's gonna get withered, completely useless. Lissandra doesn't scale that well, especially against this team where she doesn't really have anyone to like instantly kill. There's such a big front line. I don't feel like, and then Yorick is not a standalone champion. I don't feel like Fnatic, their team comp is a ticking time bomb. After a certain point, they can't win.
All right, so Fnatic has faith in their comp, though. As an AD carry, if there was anything to do, not playing Caitlyn as you wouldn't, but what would you do? What is, the objective there for Fuju?
I would just get to 6 items as fast as possible, double style, and I would try. I think he messed up by not going cleanse. That was so huge. I was like, what? Like I was scratching my head. Like, is this a mistake? Did he mess it up? Like he intentionally took barrier against Nasus. When he gets withered late game, he'll only have a potential QSS and a Mikhail's Crucible. That's not enough.
I actually think you make a really solid point there on the Mikhail's. It's gonna be needed on the All-Star. He did pick Sona though, which builds really well into Mikhail's. Both Stone and Chalice could be really core items, especially with the item reworks on supports a few patches ago. It really makes probably the best build path on it.
All right, and Monty, earlier you were saying, you didn't like the pick. What would have been a good pick for Fnatic?
I mean, I don't know what Soaz's champion pool right now.
Okay.
So it's, I mean, pretty much anything I would agree with Krepo. anything at all.
Except Yorick.
But one thing that I've noticed here about Vulcan's evolution, actually, is when CLG has played against Vulcan in the past, they frequently pick compositions that do well in lane but have initiation problems in the late game, and so you can kind of wait them out. I really like that Xmithy's picked up Vi here because that solves a lot of these old issues so that they can continue to press their advantage.
And the issues have been solved as well on the desk. It looks like they have that peripheral issue all fixed up. So let's send it back over to Quickshot and Freak, the broadcast booth, for the rest of this game.
Thank you very much, Rib. We're about to jump back into the game. Just to give everybody an update, it is, of course, Vulcan versus Fnatic.
Yep.
Game 1 in Group B, but Game 6 of the day.
Yes. So to recap, the analyst desk said that, 2 had predictions that Vulcan was going to win. 2 said that Fnatic was going to win. The audience thought that Fnatic was going to win. But if you trust the analysts, Vulcan can't lose this unless their arms are really, really strong. So here's the second Dragon. Right, they got the gank at the bottom lane right before Dragon spawned. making it a well-earned draft.
Yeah, so that's going to give them a close to 3,000 gold lead right now, unless my math is completely terrible. And it does work out. There we go. Psycho Sid continues to farm up his siphoning strike. It's over 120 right now. So farming up relatively well, not quite hitting that 15 per minute. But to be fair, he was in a 2v1 lane. Right now, Fnatic group up as 4 members try to focus down this mid turret.
And they've got some pretty good pressure here. They brought in the Caitlyn as well, even though she didn't go for the Bloodthirster build that we tend to see. She did go early Berserker's Grief, so her attack speed plus straight attack damage. Oh, the Shockwave!
Oh, massive damage. Yellowstar does manage to get away, though. Now we see Soaz diving onto Mancloud. Stranglethorns throws up Pushu, probably the most valuable target. Forced to flash over the wall from Zuna. Now Soaz is the target. His armor has been broken by those denting blows. Zuna throws down the Phosphorus Blonde. Expected manages to flash out. Everybody is still alive. How are they doing it? We do see the Vault Breaker, but backwards from Xmithy. Fnatic turn tail and book it, but make it out cleanly.
Did Psycho Sid do much in that fight? Like, I'm trying to remember if he actually came down. He certainly didn't ult. He didn't teleport. Pretty sure he just farmed a bunch of minions and Vulcan won that with a 4v5 with a turret on their side. And that's kind of the issue, right? Fnatic, their only engage is... Yeah, okay, there's a blue buff still. Their only engage really is Peke. He didn't use any of his major engagement tools. They sort of realized that they couldn't really kill Vulcan under their own turret, and it was weird that they tried, because Vulcan can just kind of blow you up with shockwaves that you just saw.
It looked like some miscommunication from Fnatic. They were sort of half in, half out after taking that damage, but they made it out cleanly. They didn't give up any more kills, and I guess that's really what counts at this point in time.
But this is so weird. Vulcan has hit a huge power spike right now. They've got the Trinity Force done on Corki. He is going to be ready to kill people. He's off on the side, ready to jump in. His shockwave's up in like 12 seconds. Vulcan just force a battle.
Well, we'll have to see if they decide to do that. Assault and Battery is available, and Xmithy making his way towards that mid lane, but Fnatic once again are backing themselves out, getting away cleanly, deciding they not feeling brave enough to stick around in that mid lane.
So this is interesting, actually. So Vulcan, despite hitting a power spike, despite having the Trinity Force, having a clear lead, they're not trying to press a major advantage. Smithy picked up his own red buff again. They could have given that to Zuna and said, let's go Siege. Trinity Force is done. You have a blue buff. You can spam rockets. Like, if Vulcan wanted to push, my god, they really could right now, and they'd get turrets out of it. But as the analyst just said, there's not necessarily a late game hope even here for Fnatic, even though it's their normal gameplay style. And if Vulcan just wants to say, great, everyone hit 6 items and we'll win because of our champion selection, then they're happy to do that too. And because they have the lead, Fnatic can't stop them.
Well, we'll have to make sure Vulcan don't get caught out of position.
Yeah.
It is something that we have seen them doing in the late game during the course of the NA Summer Split, and it's a mistake that will cost them dearly against a team like Fnatic, who truly do play the map very well. You can see that Fnatic are still remaining split up for the most part. They grouped up in the mid for a couple of attempts, but now they're sticking to that sort of 3-lane CS control right now.
And this is going to be just their standard styles. Get Nasa's huge. He's got the Spirit Visage done. And what's interesting, actually, is you've actually now got a slight lane mismatch. Because Psycho Sid is in the bottom lane, but fighting against Pushu. And Pushu is an AD carry. Now, we said, oh, but he's got Wither. It's so powerful. He'll shut down Caitlyn. But not at this stage of the game. He doesn't have any armor on Nasus. He doesn't even have Wither maxed out right now. He's actually only got 2 points in it, 2 in Spirit Fire with that max siphoning strike. So if he actually battles Pushu and Yellowstar can force Sid out of lane.
Well, we'll have to see if Fnatic decide to press that advantage. As it stands, Pushu still has not completed a major item. BF Sword and Pickaxe is all he's working with. Peke, on the other hand, Seeker's Arm Guard plus that Negatron Cloak. Negatron Cloak was actually the first item that Peke went back to purchase. So he's also working towards his first item. And if you were Fnatic, I imagine the thinking is farm until we've completed items, then pick fights, because it doesn't really look like they've committed to any major objectives yet.
Fnatic are looking for a narrow window for openings. Unfortunately, there's a gank potentially on Soaz right here. This could be rough.
Soaz is in a bit of trouble. Takes some damage there. Zuna carries on. Assault and Battery slams him into the ground. Omen of Death goes down as he continues to try and focus out Zuna. Will get taken out as Zuna gets away cleanly thanks to Valkyrie and Mancloud. Just 1v1 Cyanide. A full burst combo takes him down.
But Smithy's going down right above Baron.
And it's Zuna saves Smithy. What a flash. Ace in the hole. Not going to do it.
I can't believe Smithy didn't die right there. He got caught out by Peke and Pushu up in that top jungle as he tried to run away. All right. So what I was talking about before, though, with Fnatic was, so the analyst is saying they don't have a late game potential. They're down in gold right now. Fnatic needs to hit item breakpoints, important item breakpoints, like it's Abyssal Scepter, maybe Zhonya's Hourglass, maybe Muramana combining, or Infinity Edge being done, and do something with a small item ledge and hope you can challenge something.
Well, we have to say that Vulcan right now extending that lead, 6,000 gold. This is a replay of Cyanide just getting taken out.
Yeah, he's alone, didn't have flash up right there, no jungle camps to go to as well. And here's like Smithy, right, gets rooted up, gets stunned as well. Smithy has to flash, and then just look at this. This is glorious. Oh! Barely gets it. Zuna's a man.
This has to be the first time that Zuna's caught some damage skill shot that hasn't cost major objectives. So well played to Zuna as now Fnatic group up in this mid lane. They really want to get this tower down, but they're not committing to it.
And look how diligent Vulcan are at getting back to there in time. As lanes start to break down and the map gets more and more spread out, it's easy to sneak turret kills. Vulcan are not letting that happen. Psycho Sid knows when roams are coming his way. They've got 2 to 3 wards in this right-hand side jungle, now 4 on that quarter of the map. They're not letting anyone get caught. They're not letting any pushes succeed from Fnatic.
Well, Vulcan once again heading to the Dragon right on time. This would be the 3rd of the game, if memory serves correctly. Psycho Sid backs away, and thanks to the vision that he had done for his split push, they secure that one uncontested. Fnatic, you're way too late in the party, and it's already gone.
And this time around, they don't catch someone on the way out, so no side kill picked up. And just watch at Vulcan's game plan. They're doing this over and over and over again. Psycho Sid gets a lane up to the enemy turret saying, someone duel me, because no one can. And the only guy with teleport is Peke, and Peke definitely can't duel him. There's the nice job right there by Peke, managed to steal away the blue buff. But basically Vulcan are living in their jungle, and whenever they need Psycho Sid, he'll show up, but until then, stack in the queue.
I think you'll find that was XPK securing his blue buff, because he was trying to steal it.
At this point, it's his.
At this point in time, Vulcan have just got complete map control. They've focused the top off, now they're focusing the bottom. They've backed away to continue farming, and Psycho Sid over 300 damage on that siphoning strike at 20 minutes. I think he's actually ahead of the curve right now in the numbers that we were talking about.
Yeah, Sid has been basically donated a free lane by his team the entire time. Oh, there's a big wave bottom lane. We're not pulling a CLG and giving it to the AD carry. We're not pulling a Fnatic and giving it to Peke, always Peke. It's Vulcan realizing who's important, but Bloodwater gets caught.
Yeah, he's dead. There was way too much damage from Fnatic.
Yeah, okay, so down goes that, and this is actually finally an opening for Fnatic. As they got a pick, Infinity Edge is done, they can go for a turret.
Well, they're going to be able to focus this one down. 3 members of Fnatic facing off against the single defending member of Zuna. Look at the sides though, Xmithy as well as ManCloud may be coming in. Charging up the Vault Breaker as Xmithy throws himself down, catches Pushu, the Shockwave throws 3 of them backwards. Xmithy chunked down low as Fnatic back away. They do have one down as Psycho Sid throws the Wither onto Peke. Zuna, Valkyrie's forward, closes out another kill for ManCloud. That's a triple for ManCloud. The highest kills in NA, and now the highest kills in this game at 5-1-2. Vulcan aren't done yet. Wither goes down. The Ring of Frost locks them up as we do see Peke flashing out cleanly. He does get the ice shots down. Command attack, dissonance, attack. ManCloud with the 6th kill of the game.
Absolutely massive play. Mandatory Cloud of Fiends and a Death Cap. When a Death Cap gets down on Orianna, she deals some real scary damage. And Psycho Sid decided it was time to leave the lane and fight some people. And that's what happened with Vulcan. These guys are huge. They can set up for Baron if they want to. They can honestly probably just keep going for turrets if they did.
Well, talk me through the replay of this mid lane fight, Freak.
So there's the engage, and there's the Shockwave right after. That was a beautiful flash by Pushu, but it doesn't matter. Sid shows up, and that's basically all she wrote. Zuna is massive. Pushu's had to run away the entire fight. You'll notice he had an Infinity Edge and basically never got to attack. And it's Vulcan running a train on people because they have the ability to chase things down with Wither, with Command Dissonance, and just with basically sheer force of will. Fnatic weren't allowed to fight the entire time.
Vulcan just looking so incredibly strong here now. An 8,000 gold lead. They are 9 kills to 4, and Fnatic, it's getting to that point where there's not going to be a lot that Fnatic can do. Even after finally getting that tower down, Vulcan just pinched them in and shut them out. And if Vulcan decides to go for any of these other, inner turrets, there's only one left standing. there's not much left for Fnatic to fall back to.
No, there's really not much opening. They don't even have the super crazy late game potential, aside from as what Double have said with kind of a shrug. It's like, well, I'd go for 6-7 as fast as I could, like I do, but there's Wither. He doesn't have cleanse, and there's not enough ways to remove that debuff. So this is really Vulcan's game to control. And what I actually want to look at actually is start paying attention to what Vulcan does, because they've always been sort of, I mean, they've had a lead this big against Cloud9 and didn't manage to win the game. I want to see what they actually do to try to close a game out. Zuna pushing the top lane, Nasus, Psycho Sid in the bottom lane pushing still with teleport up. I want to see if Vulcan has learned anything since the end of the split.
Well, as it stands, they have fantastic vision control across Fnatic's jungle, and they have had fantastic vision throughout this game. It's definitely going to help them pay dividends once this Nasus split pusher just sticks in lane. Almost 400 bonus damage on that siphoning strike. And, you know, we talked about how Pekka can't contain him, and we see it happening right there as the rest of Vulcan focus on top.
Yeah, Nasus is too big to be dealt with right here. He'll keep sustaining through, especially with the Spirit Visage. It does multiply the lifesteal from Nasus' passive. It's part of the reason that item is so good on him, in addition to the cooldown reduction, letting him spam that Q more. So Sid will keep pulling attention. Now, Pekka does have wave clear. Sid actually won't threaten the turret, but they're both going to last hit everything, but Sid gets Q stacks as well. So this is still a better proposition for Fnatic. Or, sorry, for Vulcan.
For Vulcan. They gain dividends at the end of it, I guess is the best way to think of it. And 257 CS on ManCloud after falling behind Pekka in the early game. He's now 40 ahead. Vulcan with an audacious start. They are on Baron.
And look at the ward control they have. There's so much vision in this red side jungle of Fnatic's. They'll see him coming a mile away. ManCloud is actually running interference, but he's safe because he knows where the rest of Fnatic are. This is just almost uncontestable Baron.
Well, we do see the three members of Vulcan going very, very low. Baron is safely secured. Now Psycho Sid has been collapsed on. Soaz and Pekka doing the best they can to shut him down. The Frozen Tomb is available, but Pekka decides not to use it. They have saved it. The slow lands on the backside of Psycho Sid, and with one more Wither, Sid even gets away. Yep. They've secured Baron, and all it cost him was a Ghost.
Yeah, Wither and Ghost prevents anyone from being able to run past you. Pekka had already used his Ice Pack basically to get into range in the first place, and had no more chasing tools afterwards. It's just simply Sid has been able to free farm this whole lane. He's now going Iceborne Gauntlet just to chase people even harder, just to make sure no one can screw with him. There's honestly... This is going to be a very difficult game for Fnatic to win.
Yeah, in the background there, Ace in the Hole was channeled by Pushu onto ManCloud, and the Command Protect, it did almost nothing. ManCloud's just got so much ability plan damage, 437 AP on that Orianna right now, 6-1-2. We talked about how important these mid laners are going to be, and a 6-1-2 ManCloud versus a 0-2-3 Pekka, it's definitely, ManCloud that's flying high.
Yeah, he's doing a much better job with his team. The 1-on-1 initially did go Pekka's favor, but basically ManCloud's team set him up for success. They just did a better job of running the map. They ganked the bottom lane, went for Dragon. Ganked the bottom lane, went for Dragon. They've secured objectives so much better, and I think they played the lane dance better as well. They got the turret earlier on. Soaz was down to a very early deficit and never got to challenge Psycho Sid. Nasus normally doesn't have the best early game, and Sid got to skip that by saying, well, your early game got worse.
Well, this is the point in the game where traditionally Vulcan have shown more weakness in their gameplay than anywhere else. Closing it out and getting past those inhibitor turrets. And, if you do cast your mind back to that Cloud9 epic comeback, it was those inner turrets and the inhibitor turrets that caused Vulcan the biggest problems.
But when Cloud9 won that game, it was basically with Ashe and Zed. They had hard initiate and really good follow-up damage. Fnatic has good initiate. They've got Pekka in there to basically be one of the other Freljord tribe leaders and lock someone up down with ice, and that's wonderful. But Pushu's Caitlyn is nowhere as scary as High Zed in that game.
Fnatic love the Death Bush. This is something they have done many times in the summer splits, and I distinctly recall Cyanide and Pekka hunting down individual members. The question is, do they wait for Sid?
They're going to
vision
try.
Is there. They're hiding in the bush. Crescendo's available. They've collapsed on him. Psycho Sid's going to do the best he can to get away. Crescendo locks it up. He turns his focus away, and 4v1, not even Sid's going to get away.
But Vulcan's pushing the top lane right now. Fnatic has to recall right away, but they won't show up in time. This should be Vulcan's turret.
Well, we'll have to see how defensible Pekka can make this turret hold. He's got good wave clear. Tower is down to half. He's decided not to engage yet. The siege minion is all that stands, and Vulcan secure the tower. They've lost one.
It's a 5v4. They have to go.
Out. Cyanide decides not to collapse in. Vault Break is away. Cyanide's considering landing the Fangs, but decides against it. And what you see, Peke, he didn't chase either. Soez gets dropped down. That's a shockwave not available. Stranglefall is used to zone out Fnatic, and Vulcan look like they're going to get away.
Fnatic could not find their way in. The only initiator they had was Peke. They didn't follow up on the cocoon that Cyanide had landed. That was like the one option. The hardcore went for a single kill and traded a turret out for it, an inhibitor turret out for it, which is not a good trade for Fnatic. The only you get from that is a temporary 5v4 on the map. They did not capitalize on the 5v4. Fnatic had one small opening, couldn't get it.
And Zuna does manage to make away. They've caught out Mancloud. Glacial Tomb goes down. They continue to focus him. Cyanide is going to fall. That was a 3v1. That Mancloud has survived. Xmithy throws down Pushu in the background. Peke still chasing. Mancloud gets out cleanly. Zuna still alive in the background as the Omen of Death is going to get popped. Now Xmithy turns his focus over to Yellowstar. You can see Soez doing the best he can to get away. And Mancloud survived being jumped on by all of Fnatic.
He's just so massive, so much ability power on that Orianna. I mean, that's basically just a gold lead at work. When you've got hundreds of shield from that. To look at it specifically, it's 240. Sorry, what? Yeah, 240 plus 198. That's a gigantic shield. And honestly, Fnatic not having any gold for damage items, they can't break through that.
Ladies and gentlemen, 30 minutes on the clock. Vulcan are 12-5 up. They have a 15,000 gold lead. And it looks like Vulcan should be able to close this one out. They've decided to play it safe. Backed away with all three inhibitors down.
I don't know if they needed to play that defensively, but they're going to choose to do that. Let's take a look at that last fight. So Mancloud gets locked up, but look at that. Pushu is zoned out. There have been zero auto attacks from Pushu. He got the ulti off, but then got jumped on by Xmithy. Peke did not get any gold. He can't solo Mancloud. You saw literally zero auto attacks come out of the AD carry, the Infinity Edge Zeal AD carry. Of course you're not going to kill Orianna in that case.
Mancloud just went man mode in that team fight. He's 7-1-4. 11 out of his team's 12 kills he has been involved in and participated. And he's just doing so incredibly well. Look at the gold. 14,500. That is immense.
Yep, he's got 3,000 more gold than Zuna. Zuna's been picking up the scraps of farm, but Mancloud's at 326. Even though that side lane farm went to Psycho Sid and he would slow push, it's Mancloud getting everything. He's on a play-making mid laner like Orianna and making plays.
Well, the double super minions are now pushing down both the top, middle, and bottom lane. Fnatic only have 2 towers that stand between them and a Group B defeat. And it's going to be Vulcan just waiting, biding their time for the minions to aid them in knocking over those last 2 obstacles.
And they're looking to close the game out. They're not even bothering setting up wards in the red side jungle. The Barons in 1 minute, they don't care about that. They respawned, got full health and mana, got items with all their gold lead, and are looking to close it out with this push.
Well, see how effectively they can. The super minions in the side lanes are now making it up. Shockwave once again pulls Soez backwards. He uses the Omen Death on himself. Now a 10-second timer available. Take a look at the damage from that siphoning strike. Now that the Ghost of Christmas Past is down, Vulcan turn their attention to the tower. That is a massive chunk from that siphoning strike of Psycho Sid. He's taken down the first tower. The minions are bashing away the second. Vulcan are going to do it. Vulcan are going to pick up game 1 here in Group A. North America has drawn first blood against Europe at the World Championships.
Absolutely great play right there by Vulcan. The crowd standing up, cheering for them. Really good play by these guys. And it was only like a 31-minute game. Vulcan actually did a pretty damn good job of actually closing it out, building off their early game lead, and pushing it through.
Every single question that we posed about Vulcan's gameplay, about Vulcan's control and ability to close it out, has been answered resoundingly in that demonstration.
Yeah, they did. They made, basically from second one, better choices than Fnatic. Champion select. Yep, better comp right there. No great early game sort of focus there for Fnatic. No great late game focus for Fnatic. Whereas there was a clear plan here for Vulcan. They had a late game contingency plan with Nasus. They had initiation power right there. The crowd cheers for the playmakers on Vulcan. Good comp, good play by Vulcan.
What a fantastic game. You know, from the get-go, right out the gate, Vulcan, they came out swinging. They got those early kills. They pushed the towers down. They had complete dragon dominance. I don't think Fnatic touched a dragon. Not even touched it.
You might have seen one?
Yeah, they seen one briefly and heard myths of it being alive, but it was just complete control. and basically domination from Vulcan.
It was, and that's really the way to describe it. It was a controlled game. It wasn't like dive after dive after dive after dive right away. It wasn't a crazy high kill game, but there weren't many openings given to Fnatic. There was a couple of picks on the sides there. Smithy kind of got caught out after cleaning up a kill on a Soaz, and he barely escaped, and that was the Zuna flash that kept him alive. You got the catch on Bloodwater in the middle of the game where Fnatic basically tried to then push as soon as Sona went down, but never did Vulcan actually give them more than a small handhold to claw back into the game. One kill was never turned into anything by Fnatic.
One of the things that I was very impressed by Vulcan's play, in terms of their playstyle, Psycho Sid does tend to be left on that sort of island. He does tend to play the sort of supporty type top laners, in terms of supporting the rest of his team. Mancloud and Zuna being the carries, as it were. He played such a good role at drawing Fnatic's attention and controlling the movements on the map because of his vision control and his split pushing. He was never, ever in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's the top lane teleport style. Is you're going to pick someone who can build tanky and still be useful, which is Nass is great at, Singed as well, and he's going to be constantly a threat. He doesn't have to push fast, but he needs to make sure he has some kind of presence that someone has to deal with him, which he did with Nass. Shove the lanes down, start putting major damage on the turrets, and started pulling Fnatic apart off the different sides of the map, and allowed the rest of his team, which was a very cohesive four-man unit, the rest of that Vulcan squad could make plays.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be jumping to a very quick break, but when we return, Gambit Gaming and Mineski take to the ref for their first fight on the world stage. Plus, we'll be joined by Ozone support Mata. Don't go anywhere. The Season 3 World Championship. We'll be right back.
Good shit. Good shit. Good shit. Good top.